Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're absolutely fantastic. I'm very casually, as you can see, just wanting to bring to your attention that if you're feeling a shift inside of you, if you're feeling a sense of maybe desperation, concern, fear, you're not alone. To my understanding, I think there are a lot of ships that are not making it into harbor around the US because of the trade war, which means that businesses are not getting their products. Customers are potentially canceling their orders. If it's perishables, it's going to waste on the ships. And so economically and from a business aspect, there is some challenge experienced in the Americas. Then you've got the blackouts in Europe where there's panic buying. People are really uncertain of when things are going to take a turn for the better. In the UK, a whole bunch of dodgy decisions are being made by Parliament for a change. And it's just not okay. So from a macroeconomic perspective, there's challenges, which obviously trickles down into a micro environment as well, where the challenges are then felt in a different way. Say, for example, I want to share vulnerably my challenge. I've been on this road for 8 years and I'm not going to stop. It's just who I am. I'm going to continue doing what I do. But sometimes things are great, and other times it's rock bottom. So right now, I've been going through rock bottom because people are experiencing that state of fear and the state of lack. And I'm really battling to find my final round of funding, which is well needed just to get me over the last hump so that I can get the product operational and functional and working holistically. So hang in there. My advice, or the advice that's been shown and given to me, is that to focus on yourself too much creates suffering, like suffering. So if you self, you become into the state of suffering. Alternatively, you can focus on soul, so S-O-U-L, soul, and then feel the warmth of your higher self, the collective at large, and source, Mother God Creator there, which gives you two options. One is you can either hide and be miserable, or come from a place of hustle, egoic, running on the mill, tie yourself out there, get into a state of hypermania where it's just like artificial energy, which requires stimulants and stuff that isn't real, and just burn out. Like I can tell you right now from experience, I've got many experiences in that avenue. Or alternatively, you can connect with nature, just shut off for a bit, and I was going to say stay away from the screens, but not just yet. Wait for this video to finish before you stay away from the screens for a bit, and just recalibrate yourself into that shift that's trying to happen. Because we can't keep on, as a global community, like if this is kind of planet Earth, we can't just keep on going into a state of consumerism, exhaustion, childish behavior, really non-collective thinking behavior. So my recommendation is to come from a place, or try and find your center, try and find some form of stability. You can entertain your brain and remind yourself how great you are and how far you've come and all your accolades, and you can have your degrees framed up on the office wall and that kind of stuff. You can just do that mental masturbation, but I think that many people are going to find themselves in a place of despair rather than on path. And if you're on your path, it's not always easy, but at least you're making progress. If you're in a place of despair, you're running on the spot If not, you're going backwards. So that's just something to think about there. My personal story is that I'm looking for the next round of funding, and people are finding it difficult to be able to relate to my product. And the reason why it's difficult for them is because not many people have gone the distance in specialization or specificity. Like, for example, let me just close my door real quick. Like my grandparents, sorry, I'm just busy with work. My love, she's upstairs. I'll see you soon. My grandparents were a part of the first or second generation to settle in South Africa. So they came down from England. And for them, it was about creating opportunity. It was about the tertiary sector. It's about farming, agriculture, growing your own stuff, finding a marketplace for it. And all the while, there were roads being built and post office being built and a hospital being built. So they didn't necessarily come from a place of financial abundance in that area. Well, my mom's side of the family did. They had gold mines and stuff, but that's got its own pros and cons. And then their advice to their kids was to get a secure job and make sure that you get your monthly income, because they know a life where there isn't monthly income, and sometimes you can't pay for food when there's no money, or whatever the case may be. So, which makes my parents' advice to me to get a secure job, a sustainable environment that will have a paycheck. I went to a very good school. I put myself through college. And I lived that life throughout my 20s, and multiple jobs along the way, and multiple jobs running at the same time, just to deeply explore things. And personally, what I learned was after leaving school, I got immediately into the like waitering and DJing and that sort of stuff, just so I could pay for my studies and buy things. And that's because you don't necessarily need a qualification to operate those arenas and make the money. So my results was what I earned money on. And I very quickly learned that the long hours and the physical requirements and the exhaustion that comes with being someone in the restaurant industry, which the money is made at nighttime, it's made around dinner and that kind of stuff, just wasn't for me. So then I instead dropped the waitering thing, and I went all in on DJing whilst I was like 19, 20, 21, and brought in money that way, but also at the expense of my health. Luckily, I was young and energized, but it was like I was DJing until 4 a.m, and it just wasn't great, but I just somehow had the energy to push forward. Then from there, that was obviously to also help pay to get my MBA and all the exams and all the applications and buying the books and going to class and paying tutoring, all that kind of stuff. So I got a heads up of what the business world was about to show me. And I did micro and macroeconomics and business management, all of it, accounting, law. It's all a part of the many-year course. And so I went into the world with an educated blueprint of what's going on. So from a microeconomic perspective and business management perspective, all the companies I work for, I got in principle, and then I saw that they tried to carry out those principles in real life. But to be honest, business never brought the real life components that textbooks, high standards live up to, if you know what I'm saying. It's like they just try to buy and sell, or they try to buy a product, add value to it, and sell it for a profit, but not necessarily always with best practice in mind. So I got a good understanding of what the world was all about. From there, I went into supply chain, so I got to understand the ins and outs of all the tangible good businesses. So if there's a tangible good, for example, this is an Xbox remote control or whatever the case is, it needs to move from one place to another place. So we've got to understand manufacturing, the timelines, expectations, the Incoterms, where responsibility stopped and ended between seller and buyer, and who's paying for what and when. I got to understand business cycles, what is expected in Q1, Q2, etc. And really got to deep dive into other people's businesses because I brought on business. And to bring on business, it all comes down to listening and understanding. And I would sit down with many CEOs of big operations with many warehouses, national distribution, global offices, all that kind of stuff. And I would say, explain your business to me in a in, do, out way. So input, process, and output. What comes in, what's done with that, and where does it go? And I used to jot down business after business, really getting to understand what made it work. And from there, I went into tech for a little bit. I didn't quite like it at the time. It was still a bit early on for the tech boom, so I don't want to get in whilst there was too many teething problems. So I put that aside, and then I jumped into the world of finance, capital expansion, and to get businesses, my firm's capital to invest in them, I had to understand the way they operated through their financials. 6 months statements, getting to the nitty-gritties, understanding the cash flow cycles, understanding the stress points, understanding where profit made sense or where things were a liability and a high risk. So I really had to look up the skirt of many business offerings and this is all happening on a corporate level. So I did family businesses like moms and pop stuff when I started out, and then I got into the big corporate stuff, and I was like, wow, all right, so this is what this is all about. And come 2017, my stepfather passed away, and he had the wakeboarding boat in the lawn, the Mercedes and the address, and beautiful clothes and all that kind of stuff, which was great. But he would have to work 10 days on, 2 days off, 10 days on, 2 days off. So we only got to see him 4 days of the month, and we lived in his beautiful shell of a house, which of course we're super grateful for. However, the quality of life, when he passed, there would be these items just left behind. Like if I wanted to borrow his Harley Davidson, the answer is not no, because he's not there anymore to say no, if you know what I'm saying. So, and he went to the grave with all of these beautiful shiny things, but those shiny things eventually owned him because he couldn't travel anymore and explore the world and go out and live. And at that stage, I was very much experiencing the same dilemma where I had 3 jobs going. I had an incredible high-ranking corporate job. I had Airbnb in the city bowl of Cape Town, which is prime location, globally speaking. I'm not just talking about for Africa. And then also I had an entertainment business where I was DJing at major corporate events and major weddings and so on and so on. So I was burning myself out, but spending the money as fast as I was earning it. And that for my parents is kind of like a sustainable life, because you've got a monthly income, you've got some disposable income from other sources, and that's winning. But again, after my stepfather's passing, I came to realize that this is not winning. This is slavery. And I knew something had to change. A major shift had to change. And it was uncomfortable and I didn't like it very much. But I just had this drive and obsession. Conor McGregor was coming up and he was talking about mind power and how he doesn't know about anything else. Like, don't speak to him about sports like soccer or something, because all he knows is his craft. And I love that. So as per Tony Robbins, to take the islands, you burn the boats. You can't go half the way. If you're going to go all the way, you got to go all the way. So I let go of my monthly salary, I let go of my side income and the other income. So all of it dissolved. And even though it was great to enjoy the fruits of all of those incomes, I spent it as fast as I got it. It was about living the fast life and status and good company and VIP rooms and billionaires and that kind of rubbish. Not sustainable. So the reason I'm telling all of that is because I went on to a hero's journey, and I got into Bitcoin whilst it was still $2,000 for one of them, which in relation to it being $100 for a Bitcoin was kind of considered a little bit of expensive. And years back, you can get a Bitcoin for $10. So $2,000, it didn't seem cheap at the time. But if you had to follow and invest your time, effort, energy, and focus into one thing for the last decade, nothing has outperformed Bitcoin going from, I mean, it was even, if I'm talking about a decade, it's less than $1,000 back then. But when I got in 2017, 2018, it was $2,000. It's reached over to $110,000 at its all-time high. So no other asset can compare in terms of growth over this relatively short time if you look at business cycles. And the reason why I got into Bitcoin was because ultimately I wanted freedom. There was the beautiful blockchain anti-bank movement that spoke to me, because it's always good to be independent and not to be overly dependent with other people's decisions. So I loved that environment. And it was business at its core. You could buy and sell and make profit. So you buy low, sell high, close in at a profit. So it made perfect sense. It wasn't something like a yo-yo or a scooter that kind of comes in and out of fashion, and or a fancy looking sneaker that is just there for a season, but then it becomes no longer fashionable when it's out of season, and so on. This is the markets. It's been around since before the 1950s, and it's going to always be around there. So it's something that could be future proofing that I was super excited about and interested in. And as I explored this, for the first 18 months of my exploring it, I followed other people's advice. I learned all of the books that come with it, or the oscillators, the risk management, the different kind of markets, why markets exist. I learned all of that stuff. I learned the different instruments and so on and so forth, and what the typical person uses. And then through a typical person's eyes, the Fibonacci numbers is like a big kind of thing for them, because that's like out of their realm of comfort. So I went through all of that, and I lost money, and I listened to other people's advice, and I just realized that it's a big scam. Like, the people out there are the blind leading the blind. There's like a reason why the stats are real, and it's not hypothetical, and you don't really accept it up front, but 90 to 95% of traders fail. That's a big reason why not to get into this industry, just by that stats alone. So it's insane how badly things exist, but there's so much support for it. It's just like such a stance on what the world is about sometimes. Governments and taxation and all this weird stuff, borders. Anyway, so after learning for 18 months how the market shouldn't be, or how things shouldn't make sense, and they don't make sense. Like, for example, like an oscillator. It tells you what's happening and what has happened. It's like trying to forecast the future of business sales by looking at a balance sheet. That's what oscillators are. So I then said, okay, this is a bunch of rubbish. And then I went to beyond market thinking, beyond the typical environment. I started looking into the sciences and cycles and energies and the planetary movements and numerology and the mystics. So I dove into the mystics, and I finally got to understand where I could find how to forecast the future of price action before it already existed. And I won't get into that story, but I found out how to do it. I then, through taking on different influences from Eric Bean to W.D. Gann to other stuff that I discovered myself, I built a system that you could utilize in any environment. You can sit on an airplane and do it, on a bus, you can be at home and do it. And I took the incredible world of the mystics and made it simplified and usable for myself. And I did use it for myself. I managed other people's funds, and I took on friends and families, accounts, and so on. And I came to then realize, and I started putting out like signals, the whole typical situation. I then came to realize, whilst I was doing that I wasn't free. And I'd failed at finding freedom, because now I'm answering to a guy on the beach who's asking me if I caught that move, but I'm AFK, I'm way on the beach just to kind of rejuvenate my energy. And like they would get shitty because they didn't win on that, because I wasn't at my computer. So I felt there was slavery in managing other people's money. So I said, okay, well, this is not for me. Then I got into just trading for myself again. And then the universe stepped in. I lost it all. 36 win streak led up to a losing it all scenario. And there's more on that sometime. If you're interested, just ask. And then after, I had to pick myself up. And how I picked myself up is just coincidentally, there was the pandemic that happened. I was getting friends from school and so forth reaching out and saying, and these are Ivy League educated guys, so established guys, now in a state of panic, saying, hey, listen, I know you're the crypto guy, just give us some guidance here. So I did, and I started getting a bit repetitive, and I turned that guidance into videos, and then those videos started to become well enjoyed, and then I found myself as a mentor and a coach, and I build courses, and it's not easy to do things right. Like, to get to a state of building courses and so forth, you've got to like buy the right equipment. This DSLR camera, 4K recording, that it maps my face where I move. Like, there's all these nuances to quality that needs to be taken into account, and it's hard to do. You have the right ultra high definition screen, needs to have a strong processor. That's not cheap. You got to know the right configuration to get the right stuff done. Having Rode microphones. No one talks about Rode. Like, what's a Rode microphone? Like, I had to deep dive into quality, get the right lighting, all the rest of it. And that takes time, energy, effort, and so on. So after mentoring for a long period of time, I came to an understanding that it's really hard to find freedom whilst I'm doing daily market updates, I'm answering questions, I'm invested in everyone else's journey. And for me, the end game wasn't successful. Like, say, for example, if you're a chef in a small restaurant and you can't necessarily find the resources to buy help, the more successful you are, the more effed you are, because it's more, you got a table of 14 that have arrived amongst the other two other tables, and you're having to make food for this big group and everyone else, and it's just you. So without the correct support, the more you grow, the less rewarding it is, which is a very crazy dynamic to catch your head around in some regards. And what I found is that the measure of my success of mentoring and coaching was that I would take a person into independence. So the more independent my students became, the less they needed me, and they would just disappear, right? So all that energy that kept on going into other people would just become unfulfilling, because I would just disappear, because that was the mark of a successful environment. Otherwise, it would just come back and back and back and back and back. And so I just, again, hit the ceiling, and I was like, damn it, this sucks. So fast forward to today, I realized that the only thing that's going to be able to sustain my desire for freedom is to have business at its core. So buying and selling a product for a profit that's been around, it's future-proof, something that I can do from anywhere. I can do it from a Wi-Fi hotspot in Bali, or I can do it in the comfort of my own home. I don't have to be in an office or something to that effect. And have it automated. So where I am right now, just to go back to the initial start of this, is that I run out of funding, which is ironic because my industry and product is in the money field. But because when it comes to putting all your focus into one thing, the obsession and the drive and the blinkers on just to get that thing done. When I butcher myself in doing like market updates and then trading and then developing and then testing and all that kind of stuff, I'm just too thinly spread. So I've relied on the investment from independents to get me through developmental stage, which I've largely done, and I'm just about there, but I'm fresh out of cash right now. So if you're going through your own struggles, you're not alone in doing it. I'm very much there in my own way. But where I'm also at is I've created from scratch. Like I literally own and know the code for everything that I've done, that I've created. From the AI models, maybe I can show you a little bit about that. It's currently, it's been trained. The web development that feeds it, so the inputs that go from the front end through the back end logic via the server and database into the AI models. And I'm saying that not to impress you or just to throw jargon at you, but every time I've gotten really close to this freedom thing, a new unforeseen thing has come up. I've had to learn that from scratch, make it my own, and implement it. All right, so I've been doing that time and time again. And I can quite honestly say I'm at a stage now where I'm just so close to that final finish line where this is going to turn around. So basically, for me, the way in which my technology is operating right now is that I can forecast the future of price action an hour ahead of time. I mean, I can adopt this to any market in any time frame. It just takes resources and labor some adjustments where you put some stuff in. The architecture is built, all that kind of stuff is there. So I've got the capacity to adjust this to anything. But right now, because of the highest performing asset on the planet over the last decade, I've decided to focus on Bitcoin as my primary. And what I needed from that is not to have one trade open twice a week or once or two trades open a month, because if you're wrong, it's the amount of time that gets wasted before you get the opportunity to refactor the solution and change it in the right direction. So in this instance, I've decided to go with the 30-second chart. Okay, so every 30 seconds a new candle comes in, and because MTOPS, the original strategy to me, that I've created this thing out of putting in the obsessive hours. So the AI is studied off of that, and now because of the power of MTOPS and the ability for it to work across all time frames in exactly the same way in a fractal manner, which is what you need for it to be real. You can't have things work in the higher frame separate to the way things work in the lower frames. Anyway, so I've worked it on the 30-second chart, which means that every 3 hours, there's at least between 5 and 10 opportunities. I say between 5 and 10 because you shouldn't really go counter trend when you make your trades. So this is, call it 5. Every 3 hours, 5 opportunities to learn from. And as when you enter a position, it's all about the ratio between where the entry point is to your stop loss, where your risk reward management gets fulfilled. Okay, so if you get in over here and your stop loss is over there, it's the ratio of that to that. Maybe we can use over here. So if your entry block's there and your stop block is there, your profit block's going to be there. So it's just ratios, okay? So the exact same ratio is, because it's a ratio based and not price based, will work the same way on the 30-second as it does on the 30 minutes or the 4 hour, the daily, and all the rest of it. So if I can get profit on the 30-second, the multiple times in a cycle, I'm going to go for that, which I've designed it to be that way. So my AI will tell me what's happening ahead of time by an hour, by just putting in the inputs, which will get better as the year goes and more convenient. And it will tell me exactly what's going to go down. So if, for example, here it says it peaks up, goes down, and goes up again, my AI is going to say it peaks up. I can't really put it into thing because it'll get too small. So over here, peaks up. So that's what I did. Goes down. That's what I did. Builds up to a little blimp. Goes down from that little blimp. And then it goes up again. That's what I'm getting, again, ahead of time before the price action goes out and does that. And all the while, as this is happening, I'm learning from the smartest models that are being able to adjust this and taking the intellect and what's worked for that market, for those models, and applying in a modular aspect, in a plug and play aspect, out of there into the other ones to make them even smarter. So it's like, it's all coming together. It's all getting better and stronger and more amazing because I've built my own platform. I've built the AI stuff. Everything I've done is customized and created from me by requirement with high standards and all the rest of it. But even though this is the case, and just on that real quick, I'm currently working with code where there is going to be the trialing I've created my own server for a link from my chart to go directly into prop firm environments. Well, I'm going to be testing it out tonight. And again, every time I get closer to the finish line, there's a new thing that comes up. You're going to learn about it. You're going to adjust it. You're going to customize it. We're going to test it. But what's going to happen next is that when the price goes down, then okay. If a forecast like this is seen, because I've got, this is plotted, so this is visualized. So behind the visualization is the raw numbers. Because I've got the raw numbers, what I'll do is, shortly going to be doing is putting this into a algorithm that will say, all right, if then that. So if this is lower than if the lowest value is lower than the lowest value if the lowest value in the second half is lower than the lowest value in the first half, then open up a short position. If the highest value in the second half is higher than the value in the first half, then open up a long position when this forecast comes in. Again, this is an hour before it happens. Then it will go through into the box, and everything I'm going to do is preset because I've got my style of trading. And then it's just going to execute that directly into the exchange on my behalf. So my responsibility right now is just to put the raw information into these input boxes for now. I've been trying to have it so that it's drag and drop, but working with that is very unreliable in this moment because of stuff. But the setup of the chart is where I've got to put stuff in now. I press a button, I confirm with another button, and then it goes through the process, and then it comes out. So once all of that happens, the next element is going to have it automated into the exchange for me, so I don't even have to apply my own mind to be like, all right, cool, maybe this, then that, and that kind of thing. It's just going to put it in. So I'll have to continue to set up the chart myself. However, that's just temporary. Once I get all of that automated stuff happening after my setting up the charts, I need control now. Once I've got it through the element of control on the other side of it, it's going to be automated, where there's going to be something called, well, I don't want to give up too much away, but there's this very intelligent architecture which is great at state management, and it gets 90+% accuracy when working within this database. And so it will learn the highs and lows of the environment. It will look at the price action for similar highs and lows patterns, and then it's going to set the highs and lows, so I don't have to even do this chart setup myself. And then that information will be populated into a table, what's called a database, and then automatically submitted through to the AI. The forecast will be read by the order placing system, and then that's how the supply chain is going to happen. So I've got all of that going for me. I've been at this for the last 8 years. I've overcome, I've run out of money. I've felt rock bottom many times. I should have given up a million times. And I'm still at it. And even someone like myself who has given my everything into a project, I'm sitting pretty derelict and in despair because I'm almost there, but I'm not there. So that is a long version of my vulnerable opening up being real with you and going, I am not a fly by night. I'm someone who's well educated, well experienced. I've traveled. I've got a great family, great wife, great Labradors and stuff. I've got a great product, a great future, a great vision, the capacity to take things from plan into concept, into execution, or into build, into execution, test, and application. I'm not saying this to appease my ego. What I'm trying to say is that I'm at rock bottom right now where I should be flying high. So if someone like myself is at the point that I'm at, you are not alone if you're in a state of despair or some version of it. So be kind to yourself. Take a little bit of passionate peace and self-consideration into your life, and stop worrying about your head as much, chasing this fabricated system that everyone else has done. Like, I've got to fight my dad often. He goes, your life is not sustainable, da 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 da. But he's operating from the paradigm that his parents gave him that advice, and now he's lived. I think he was a smoker, and he wakes up and has a coffee, and artificial stimulants to keep an artificial system alive. So that's his best advice. Whereas myself and hopefully other pioneers are breaking through all of that, going, I've seen what that does to people. I've been there. I've seen what it does to myself. And we're breaking through the mold and becoming creators. So this whole AI evolution of creation is upon us. And things are going to shift majorly if they haven't already. Industries, I don't catch up with the news too much, but it's shifting very fast. A lot of people are having to think on their feet. So he can't get his head around what I do. And the reason I say this is because sometimes that I might apply to you is the advice you are given something that's still relevant to today? And if you're being shifted and pushed out of your comfort zone and off the trajectory, what you feel is safe and secure, maybe it is time just to do a bit of self-reflection and just to see who you are in the now and whether or not that's still applicable to the next 5 to 10 years of who you want to become. So if you're looking for freedom, it's not going to be easy, I can tell you for sure, because that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years. I'm damn close to getting it. Be prepared to work on that, but it's absolutely worthwhile for the later half of your life, rather than having to work 14-hour days to make someone else rich, for example. And I'm so close to achieving my own freedom, which eventually will become other people's freedom, because of course I'm inspired by Mr. Beast's philanthropy, where he builds schools for other people and there's big community products. And it's not just money, they're actually out there doing good. And with my AI automating the markets on any market I want, on any time frame I want, and getting stronger, and because I've got the source code, I'll forever make this as great as it can be. And because I'm on this trajectory, I'm absolutely certain that those legacy investors that have bought in are going to be very, very happy and well off in the decades to come, as well as the people that make their way into my life. And that's what I've been fighting for. But again, where I'm right now, rock bottom. So if you're in a place of confusion and that kind of stuff, you're not alone. There's a lot of macroeconomic stuff that's getting weird, and there's a lot of microeconomic stuff that is getting affected by that macroeconomic stuff in a negative way. And dispensable income is becoming less. Job security is becoming less. Security of industry is becoming less. And if you're feeling that yourself, my recommendation is to put your feet into some dirt, put your back against a tree or hug a tree, and just surrender into the divine knowledge of creation, and just listen to what they have to say. That's my best advice right now. And obviously drink clean water and eat clean food and exercise if you can. In terms of the markets, I don't want to keep you for much longer. It has been a continuation of what I've said's been happening. This has been challenging on the lower time frames because it's been in the kill zone, which is something that's not comfortable. Yeah. So just going to let that play out. And then, as I said, what was going to happen, I think, 22 days ago. I put this forecast down 22 days ago. Like how, sorry for swearing, kids, sorry in advance. How the fuck is it possible that anyone on this planet can forecast the future of price action before it happens 3 weeks in advance? And it's going to be a month in advance once that gets to there. How is that possible? So everything you've just heard is not coming from a place of hypothetical and pie in the sky. I've earned my way up. I've added value. I operate from results. And because it's the financial industry and everything's shared information, you got your own chart. I can't lie to you. I can't Photoshop this stuff. This is live market stuff. To win in this environment is near impossible. 95% of traders fail. But yet I can forecast the future of price action 3 weeks before it happens. And also on an automated aspect, or, based off of these principles, get a high accuracy on the 30-second chart an hour ahead of time. That's true forecasting power. So let me sign off in saying I am looking for one final round of investment and one final round of funding. If there is anyone you know who is smart enough to invest in something like this, for the love of all things wonderful, get them in contact with me and help them win at their future, because that's what I need. And whoever is lucky enough to become the next legacy investor is what they need as well, long term. And let me tell you, if they don't know it yet, they will know it. And that's it. Have a good day further. Mayday.